Hi everyone, this is Brian Hayes and welcome to Beginner's Basics for Slide Dobro, the right hand technique. Today we're going to focus on some simple exercises to help in your coordination with your thumb and two fingers as required to play the slide dobro. The right hand technique is identical on the pedal steel, the lap steel and the slide dobro. So the time and effort you put into coordinating your thumb and your two fingers using the thumb pick and the finger picks will certainly help you down the track if you want to explore other slide instruments. I'm going to change the camera angle for a close-up shot of my right hand throughout this tutorial, so let's get started. During that opening number that I just played for you, I'm sure you may have noticed that I used a variety of different techniques on my right hand. At times I was playing two notes together, using my thumb and my middle finger. Other times I was sort of doing some syncopated, chordal type of playing. There were times when I did single string playing. And I also used another technique where I brushed the strings with my right hand. I moved it up the neck. I know you can't see it on the camera view there, but I used my right hand, the edge of my right hand, to create a harmonic. In today's tutorial, I just want to get you started on the most basic of those techniques, and that is the three-finger string grips. Now, I'm using the open G tuning on the dobro here, and if you haven't yet checked out my introduction to the dobro tutorial, please do, because I spend a fair bit of time on that tutorial going over the tuning of the open G tuning and also talking about the metal finger picks and the plastic thumb pick that I recommend you use. So I won't cover that ground again here today, but I want you to start by trying to play as a chord, and a chord is three or more notes struck at the same time. So strings 3, 2 and 1, which on the dobro tuning here are G, B and D, the notes G, B and D, but I want you to play them all at once, like that. And you'll sort of see that it's almost like a claw grip. It's like we're clawing at those strings. Now I recommend that you use a metronome and set it to 60 beats a minute and try and get to the point where you can do this, where you can just go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That looks easy, but if you're new to playing with finger picks and a thumb pick and playing on a instrument that lays on your lap rather than like a guitar where your hand would be sitting up like that, now our hand's laying flat, you might find that that is actually quite tricky, and you might have to put in many hours just until you can get that nice balance between the three strings. You don't want a loud G and two other soft notes, or you don't want the outside note to be strong and the other two notes to be weak. You want each note in the chord to be balanced. Now I'm playing that in what's sort of called a legato style. I'm not stopping the strings in between each hit. I'm just letting the fresh strike of the strings restart the chord. Now when you get good at that, move up to the next set of strings. So we're still playing a G chord, but this time we'll be playing the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings, and that leaves us with the notes D, G and B. So it's just another inversion of a G chord, but we try and do the same thing. Practice with your metronome. Try and get a balance between those three notes in the chord. Okay, once you get good at that, go up the next set of strings. So now we're on the 5th, 4th and 3rd strings. On the dobro, that's B, D and G. Same thing applies. Okay, and then finally we move down to the bottom 3 strings. So here we've got G, B and D. And we try and just do the same thing. Now, that's going to take a little bit of getting used to. Put the time in, get good at that. The following technique to learn is quite tricky, and it's called blocking. And it's the equivalent, we just played those chords basically in what in music you'd call in a legato style. On a wind instrument, you'd call it sort of played in a slurred style, so where you're not really making a hard attack on the start of the new chord. If we want to play in what's called a staccato style, where each chord becomes short and detached, we have to use a technique called blocking. Now this is a critical technique if you want to play the pedal steel, the lap steel, or the slide dobro. We have to find a way to be able to stop notes when we want to stop them. So when we played it legato, it's more like going da 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 da. Now we want to go da 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 da, and you can hear what I'm singing there. There's a much different style. There's a da da, a stop between each note. Now if you look closely on the camera there, I'm actually stopping the strings not with my picks, but with the right edge of my right hand, including my little finger as it's required as I move my hand further back on the neck. But just have a look, if you focus on that edge of my hand, have a look what happens. So I'm ever so slightly twisting my wrist so that my hand can touch the strings and stop them from vibrating. Now believe me, if you haven't ever tried that before, that technique can take weeks and months to really get it to the point where it's just natural in your playing. You'll start and it'll be very mechanical when you first start. So then you move up to the next set of strings if you get good at that. It's the same technique out there on your edge of your right hand. It's the same on all those different string groups. That's called blocking. I just want to finish off with one further technique in today's tutorial, and that's called cascading notes or rolling single notes, like a 5-string banjo player would play, just like this. Now you can see what I'm doing there. I'm going back to that initial string grip, the G major chord, playing strings 3, 2 and 1, G, B and D. I'm assigning a thumb and a finger to each respective string, the same as when we played it as a chord. But now we're playing it as individual notes and I'm letting them all ring on, run into each other. Now you will need to probably do that much slower than I'm doing there, but that's the technique I want you to work on. When you get good at that, shift it up a string. So now you're playing D, G and B. When you get good at that, shift it up another string. Now you're playing B, D and G. Okay, when you get good at that, shift it up to the low grip where you're playing G, B and D. Now we're not blocking those notes. If we were using the blocking technique, it would sound like this. Where the strings are not ringing on and each note is very detached there. And you can see my right edge of my right hand resting on the strings. But for the moment, I'd like you to get that effect happening there. Just do it for a really extended period of time, because that way you're learning some independence with your thumb and your index finger and your middle finger. And you're certainly going to need to get that skill to play melodies and chords on any of the slide instruments. I hope that's been of some help to you and that you've enjoyed working your way through the basic right hand techniques required to play the slide dobro. As always, keep in touch via my website. That's www.brianhayes.biz, B-I-Z, Z for Zorro. Drop me an email if you have any fundamental questions about playing slide instruments. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's the easiest way to keep up to date with all of the latest videos that I upload for the many instruments that I play and teach. Bye for now.